Great. I think it's time so we can start the session now. So once again, I would like to welcome all of you and really want to thank you for taking time out for this 1 hour session. The topic of today's session is multiply return on Facebook investment. Think beyond the obvious ways. As digital marketer, I'm sure all of you would have taken some steps as far as the marketing is concerned on Facebook. And some of you must have tasted some results as well. The point is, are you really satisfied with that results? And are there ways to really multiply the kind of returns that you're getting so far, right? And today we have with us Preetham Venki. Preetham is head of digital strategy and business in Asia at KRDS, which is a digital marketing agency and also the Facebook preferred marketing developer. Preetham has more than a decade-long experience in the marketing space, and he's worked with clients across various domains, including FMCG, luxury goods, electronic devices, automobile, e-commerce, and BFXI. So I think the good part about Preetham is that he has the technical bent of mind and has a in-depth experience in the marketing space. So I don't think there would be anyone better than him to lead on this topic. So I'm really looking forward for this session since we as Digital Vidya have invested a lot in social media, especially on Facebook. And I'm also really looking forward how we can really multiply the kind of investments that we have made. How can we really multiply our returns on that? So welcome Preetham. Thank you very much for taking time out. And before I hand it over to you, let me just set the logistics first. Like right now there are about 46 people in this webinar. So by default, all of you are muted. At any time you have any question, you can either type it in the question panel or you can press the hand raise button. So the session would go out for an hour. Out of that, about 35 to 40 minutes, there will be a presentation. And once the presentation is over, I'll try to take up all your questions in the chronological order. And we'll try to ensure that all the questions possibly, whatever we can possibly do, address in 1 hour, we'll do that. So thank you. Over to you, Preetham.
Well, thank you, Kapil. And before I start moving my presentation to the full screen mode, I'd once again like to thank all the 50 attendees for having to have taken time off just post the lunch session, because I believe it's 3 p.m. in India. It's practically close of business here in Singapore, so I'm more excited to just do the session and go back home. But then for you guys, there is still the remainder of half of a day. So thank you for joining me this afternoon. It's wonderful to have all of you here. Now, unfortunately, Facebook is such a huge domain that the best I could reduce my slides to was about 40 slides. So I'm going to try and go through that as quickly as possible. Unfortunately, it is going to be a little fast. So if there are any questions, please do make note of them. Kapil is going to go through them in detail. And then when it's put open to everybody else, I'll be happy to take all of those answers in depth. It's going to be a little bit of a run-up session because there's so much more that you can do on Facebook right now, and I need to cover a lot. So I'm going to try and do as much as I can in that 35 minutes. So I'm just going to start running the presentation on full screen. So the topic today is multiply return on Facebook investment. I'm going to assume that everybody can see the full screen deck. Is that clear, Kapil? Is it possible to see the screen in full screen now? Kapil?
Yes, it's clear.
Yeah, okay, perfect.
Yes, it's clear.
So that's me. Those are my contact credentials. Since Kapil has already introduced me, I'm not going to go too much into depth, but a large part of what I do at KRDS is digital strategy, obviously, right? And with that, obviously, we get business, and so it goes hand in hand. It's a P&L role. But to this day, I continue to formulate strategy and give a lot of advice to not only existing clients, but also to the new ones that we hope to sign. So you cannot start anything without the main core mission. Since we're talking about Facebook, it's very important to understand that Facebook has a mission, and it's a very important mission, one set to users and another set to advertisers. But let's look at broadly what Facebook's mission is. So Facebook's mission is to give people the power to share and make the world more open and connected. Why is this important? Is because the three words are share, open, and connected. Facebook is obviously working towards making the entire platform more open, which means as marketers, they have way more access as compared to any other social network in the world in terms of tapping into the power of Facebook itself. They've made this extendable across multiple APIs. So you have Insights access with the Insights API. You've got Ads access with far more features control using the Ads API. And of course, you have the Pages API in order to control the pages itself. And then the standard Facebook platform API to control user information. So Facebook has tried and made it absolutely open for advertisers alike. When it comes to share, I think the point is to share experiences, and Facebook has now moved from simple text-based status messages to photo messages to video to now literally sharing experiences. For instance, if you have a Nike Fuel band and you've gone on a wonderful run this morning, that experience of yours can now be shared. If you're enjoying a wonderful piece of music, you can do that and share it with your friends using Spotify. So sharing experiences is where Facebook is now moving on to. You'll see more and more connected devices, connected experiences, their experience amplification happening within Facebook. And if brands are not going to participate in this conversation, it is going to get a little tricky. I do have a few slides on the power of Facebook advertising, but I think in the interest of time, I'm going to skip those at the moment. We can go back to it towards the end if required. But now, strategy. And since I'm a digital strategist, it's very important for me to stress, double stress, and maybe even triple stress on why strategy is extremely important. Do not get into marketing on a whole, leave alone digital. I'm saying just broadly marketing. Do not get into it unless you have the strategy absolutely in place. There are essentially quite a few elements that you can go through when it comes to strategy, but at least when it comes to being on Facebook and being on social, the first and the most important step on strategy is listen. You need to listen to what competition is doing. You need to listen to what others are doing. You need to listen to what users are doing. So put listening as the first aspect of your strategy. A lot of people still don't have listening ports in place. That needs to be there. Second, define your goals and objectives. Now, what's important is when you start listening, you will now start defining or altering your business objectives to objectives that you want to achieve on the platform itself. So objectives can be broadly defined as what are the business objectives, then comes down to what are the marketing objectives, and then finally what are the kind of objectives that you want to achieve on Facebook as a platform. But so when it comes to objectives, as I was mentioning earlier, so there is business objectives, there's marketing objectives, and objectives that you want to achieve on the platform. You'll understand what are the kind of objectives that you want to achieve on Facebook when you start listening better first. Once you have the objectives in place, obviously you need to develop a plan. You need to put content at the center of everything. You have to understand that people just respond to two things on social. They respond to experiences and they respond to content. Content needs to be storytelling driven, which means you need to bring out emotive action from users. You need to be able to make them laugh, make them cry, make them jump, make them play. All of these are very important for the content to have, which means the content needs to have action, and in some cases, if it is objective-led, it needs to be actionable. But I think a large part of what's being done on social right now falls under the domain of entertainment, and it has to be that way at least most of the time. There are some cases where it doesn't have to be entertainment-driven. It can be education and knowledge-driven. Finally, you will obviously, after developing the content, you will then post it appropriately with the right kind of timing. That means you will engage the users, and then you will measure the response. Please do keep in mind that Facebook is changing very often, very fast, and one of the biggest motto is move fast, break things. You need to keep in pace with that, which means your measurement cannot move to monthly cycles. It now needs to move to weekly cycles, or for that matter, twice a week cycles. So make sure that everything is measured. The reporting cycles that you have with agencies are brought down to a week, and then you can start making sense of actually what's happening. And once you've measured, start looking at qualitative measurement as well, which means you will again listen to what people are saying on the platform about your brand, and then take that as a feedback in order to reiterate your objectives. So This is a very interesting comic strip, but to be honest, it's more true than it is funny. So this is one of my favorite cartoonists, of course. It's Tom Fishburne, and he talks about the 5 types of social media strategies, right? So most of the time when we started, and if you remember 3 years back, everybody was talking about how to grab likes. So it's always, everything is related to like us, like us, like us, and that's how the conversations were. And after you grab the likes, then we continue to say how awesome as a brand we were. That's amazing. Then when Facebook introduced deals and promotions, people started running all the promotions that they could. And after that, video became extremely viral. So people said, okay, let's make viral videos. So then you started begging your fans to start making your videos go viral. But what is rare and what's extremely important nowadays is the 5th one, which is how can you as a brand help your fans be more awesome? That means how can you as a brand add value to your users, whether they're on Facebook or off of Facebook? So the broader thinking is obviously off of Facebook, but then how do you start making your fans have more value? Really simple.
Hey, Peter,
and
can I stop
yes.
you here?
Yeah.
It seems your screen is not changing. I think you have not put it full screen. That might be the reason.
No, it's... what are you seeing on the screen right now?
I can see the listen goals and objective slide.
That's weird.
Is that the slide you're on? Yeah, if you could just...
What do you see right now?
I can still see that listen goals and objective screen. So what I would suggest is if you could just stop sharing your screen and then share it again, it might work.
Okay, I've done that. What about now?
Just a minute, let me. I made you the presenter again. Can you please share your screen now?
Is it okay now? Couple?
Yeah, just right now it's not reflected. So,
it's not?
Yeah, now it is fine. Yes, you can.
So you can see the comic strip now.
I can see the 5 types of social media strategies. Yeah.
That's correct.
The comic
okay,
strip.
Wonderful. Guys, I'm really sorry. This is my first time using Citrix Online, so it seems to me like there are quite a few technical difficulties. My sincerest apologies. But now that you can see the comic strip, I was concentrating on the 5th one, which is how can you add value to your fans and how can you help them be awesome? That's the kind of social media strategy you need to have. So very quickly on the paradigms, and Kapil, please feel free to interrupt me if there are any technical issues at all. So when it comes to paradigms itself, and this is something that I hold really dear to me because I think the fundamentals need to be extremely clear and straight. So first one is obviously this is Maslow's hierarchy of needs. What's important is whenever you're creating any kind of content for users, make sure you do that which satisfies their social needs, which means make sure that you give fans and users a sense of belonging. You give fans an option to express and show off. That means add to their vanity and self-esteem. And at the same time, give them some value in terms of self-actualization. So Facebook has obviously done that extremely well. But as brands, when you're operating on the platform, play into those elements. Now, this is the one that I wanted to concentrate more on. So you look at a classic marketing-led purchase funnel. It has 3 essential aspects. So as a marketer, your topmost priority should be to generate conversations. So you build a lot of awareness around it, right? So you spend marketing dollars, you buy television commercials, you buy ads, you buy print ads, you buy all of that space in order to create a lot of awareness about the brand. You're hoping that all of those people who have heard about the brand, some subsect or subset of people consider buying your brand. That means talk about you, correct? And then finally, a smaller subset of those will go ahead and purchase your product or service that you have to offer. What's happened obviously with social is obviously it's changed a little bit, which means people are buying, of course, but they're also using it, they're forming an opinion, and they're talking about it. And this is where it gets interesting. You need to be able to funnel the conversations of how people are talking about it in such a way that it can add value back to the consideration life cycle of the customers who haven't become customers as yet. The POEM framework, and before I move on to the advertising side of things and how you can get a lot of value from the Facebook platform. So the POEM framework is really simple. Most digital networks or digital platforms have a POEM framework, which is the paid, owned, and earned media framework. So paid media, I mean, I'll start with owned media, of course. Owned media is anything that you control and that you own. So in the case of Facebook, it'll be the Facebook page. But otherwise, you have the Google Plus page, you have your website, your microsite, and all of that. Earned media is whenever you're creating content which is shareable, whenever you're creating experiences. In this case, it's a Facebook app where it's shareable again, where people are then getting more of their friends to come back and re-engage. That's earned media, whenever there is shareability. And third and the last, of course, is paid media. This goes everywhere from social ads all the way to pop-up ads. When it comes to Facebook, of course, it's social ads, sponsored stories, and video ads that have the most important besides mobile ads as well. Whenever you look at advertising, what's important is to look at three important metrics, which is impressions. That means how many people have seen the ad. This is a funnel which is extremely similar to the market-generated funnel in the purchase side of things, which is impressions equals awareness, clicks equals consideration, and conversions equals purchase. Please remember this. As long as, if you can get this one aspect out of this webinar, it'll be extremely powerful. So all the three need to be measured. Conversions, and I put that broadly as conversions, is because it has to be objective-led. It could be driving people to your website, that's one conversion. It could be registrations on your website, that could be one conversion. It could be checkout of an online catalog that you have, it could be one conversion. It could be filling up of a form, that could be one conversion. Like for instance, as Kapil had mentioned in the beginning, we work with a lot of BFSI clients. In banking, especially on the insurance side of things, a lot of things that we do is get people to fill up the form so that salespeople can then get in touch with them, or the contact center can then get in touch with them. So that's a good conversion metric to go after. Whatever is the conversion, make sure that that's put and that's measured. Okay, now let's look at the various what are the various ad formats which are available. So you have the right-hand side ads, which are called marketplace ads, of course. These ads lately haven't got a lot of response, but when it comes to getting a lot of likes for your pages or new fans for the pages, that means whenever you're recruiting new fans, these still are low cost and pretty effective. You now have sponsored mobile ads within the newsfeed, and at the same time you have premium ads on the right-hand side, which are ads which are a little bit more interactive, which means you have video placement or photo placement on the right-hand side. But I would like to drag your attention to the mobile newsfeed ad. What's interesting is that close to 40% of users when it comes to India access Facebook on their mobile devices. So what's even more interesting about mobile is that it's a very immersive experience. People spend a lot of time on mobile. On desktop, they get distracted. They can open a new tab, or they get distracted by email, or there are so many distractions which happen on desktop. But because there is unitasking ability on mobile, mobile is a more immersive experience. You can look at the Google study on why mobile is more immersive as well. So trying to grab an attention of the user on the mobile newsfeed is pretty interesting. You then, of course, have app sponsor story, page sponsor story, or the page like ad. All of these you can go through, it's there on Facebook, but I want to quickly rush into how you can add value. One is, do not restrict itself only to one kind of format. You need to have ads on multiple formats. That's one. The second thing, of course, is the classic sponsored post or boost post. That means whenever you're creating new content, lately because of the dip in organic engagement and organic reach of Facebook, it's obviously advisable for at least 1 or 2 posts every week for you to be able to boost it for practically 50 to 60% of your users to get that post. That's a good way to stay in touch with them at least twice every week. Targeting. One of the most disappointing things that we saw in a very interesting study that we looked at from an India standpoint is that we saw people only do geographic and demographic targeting. That's largely because people have had experience across various media types and they're used to only that kind of targeting. But do understand that when it comes to Facebook, the targeting options are way more. Actually, least value is obtained when you do just geographic and demographic targeting. So you should think way beyond just those two methodologies of targeting. Ask your agencies to let you know exactly the kind of targeting that's being followed. That's very, very important. So right now, Facebook has gone up to the level where targeting can be done around the keywords that Facebook users have posted in their post itself. So if you can see this very clearly, it shows, this is a very simple post on I'm not drinking tonight, but let me say vodka, rum, beer, so on and so forth. And then you will start seeing a lot of those kind of advertising be targeted on the right-hand side. So keyword-based targeting can be done based on what users have posted, what users like, what are their interests and activities. And now the most important aspect. As I mentioned in the funnel, you've got people who are measuring impressions, you've got people who are measuring clicks, but what about conversions? Conversion tracking is extremely important, and Facebook has gone up to the extent of allowing a tracking pixel to be attached to any page on your website, app, microsite, anywhere for that matter. So you can now do retargeting as well. So conversion tracking needs to be done, and make sure that you're measuring the right conversion parameters. This is something which is interesting, and I haven't seen a lot of people in India use it as yet. It's become extremely popular in Singapore. In Asia, in the extended Asia is pretty popular as well. And of course, North America has already taken pretty well to it. Most brands would have collected database of users in some way or the other, right? That means through membership IDs, through proper recruitment drives of getting the contact details of their customers. When you have this database, if you have the email address and phone number of the user, you can use custom audiences in order to target them with a message on Facebook. All you need to do is upload these list of email addresses and then run advertising around them. Whenever you're trying to recruit fans, the best way to recruit fans, obviously, is to get from your current set of customers. So if you have a customer database, this is one easy way to do that. Really simple, right? That's one aspect. But most importantly, it's a good way to reach out to them and keep in touch with them, even if they're not your fans. So remember, custom audiences is great, but you know what's even better is lookalike audiences. So custom audiences comes from your database, but what Facebook then does is map it to other users who are very similar to the users who are on Facebook who are your customers. That means these are lookalike audiences. People who behave like your customers, who are in the same demographic and age group, people who have the same interests. So you can now extend the reach to others who are like your customers. Trust me, this is an amazing game changer. And the best part, Facebook does not keep the list of email addresses that you've opened because it only does mapping. That means it only checks if that particular email address is being utilized on Facebook or not. We've seen tremendous amounts of increase in terms of success stories when it comes to using custom audiences. So conversion, right, especially purchase conversion, has been 10x when it comes to custom audiences, and that's kind of logical, right? But then what's important to note is that 10x is a pretty large number. We've seen an average of at least 3x whenever custom audiences have been utilized for conversion itself. This is a very important tip. Whenever you're running advertising, please do not use facebook.com/ads. Pick up your Chrome browser and please run Facebook advertising from Facebook's own Power Editor tool. It gives you tremendous amounts of control on how you can run your ads, where you want to place them, and gives you options for creating tracking pixels and gives you options for custom audiences. All of these are very powerful. You can access it at facebook.com/ads/manage/Power Editor. If you want to take a screenshot of this on full screen, it'll be extremely useful for you. Run this on Chrome. It's open for anyone, everyone who wants to advertise on Facebook. And of course, retargeting. The classic one that Facebook became extremely popular for, and they're seeing tremendous amounts of results, is for the Facebook Exchange ads. That means you can use one of the Facebook Exchange partners, use their set of services that they have as an option, and then use retargeting. Now, just for those who haven't understood retargeting, I'll just quickly take you through. So let's say as a user, you access a website. In this case, you're booking a flight from Oakland to Salt Lake City. But what happens is you drop. You don't really go through with the booking. You search for it. You've got the dates and all of that. And after that, you drop. But then you come back to Facebook. You will now see a retargeted ad on the right-hand side, as you can see. I've highlighted that with a red box. You will now see that ad. And then when a user clicks on it, he comes back directly to that particular page from where he left off. This can now be done without a Facebook Exchange partner. What's interesting is as long as you put tracking pixels and on every page on your website, wherever conversion is happening, you can now know where the user left off last and then bring him back to that place where he left off from. So this is a very important way to get users back in order to complete their entire transaction or process. It increases conversion multifold, as we've seen before. In this case, at least when it involves using a tracking pixel, it improves conversion by at least 4x. I cannot stress more on why objectives are important. Goal, goal, goal. Set your goals up front. It's extremely important. Only then can Facebook marketing be extremely effective. If you can't set the objective, I'm always there to help you with it, so please feel free to get in touch with me or the team. Now, these are the various products that Facebook currently has in terms of, so you have Facebook Exchange, which was launched towards the beginning of 2012, and all the way up to partner categories. Partner categories haven't been rolled out in India, but they will be pretty soon. Unfortunately, they don't have the kind of knowledge bank or information that they need, but I'm hoping as retailers start collecting more information, once they start tying up with the relevant retailers, you'll start getting partner category information. Everything else I've taken you through. Make sure that at least 2 or 3 out of these 4 you utilize when it comes to your Facebook marketing. I always like to show this important chart in order to show you how you can have tremendous amounts of value. Most of the time, whenever you do geo-targeted advertising, which are traditional ads, or broad category advertising and demographic targeting, the value is actually pretty less, even though the size can vary between small and large. What you need to look at is above the central line, which means you need to start targeting users based on workplace and job titles, on promoted results, mobile placements, and more B2B specific targets. Fans of competitors are a good way to reach out as well. Page post ads to fans are extremely important because that's the only way they're going to stay in touch with you, with your mission, what you have to say. Page-like ads are standard. I mean, that's a given. Interest targeting, promoted posts are again standard. Friends of fans and and their targeting is also standard. But please, please, please do not do geo-targeted traditional ads, do not do broad category targeting, and please do not do demographic-based targeting. There's a lot more information that Facebook has about users, and you can get down and drilling. So I think broadly, do not have a single ad campaign. You need to now have multiple ad campaigns address a different people. So let's just look at gender parting. What about showing a different set of creatives, different copy and different headline for women and a different one for men? What about a different one for men who are between the ages of 18 and 25 and a different one for men who are between the ages of 25 and 32 and so on and so forth? What about different for people who come just from Bombay and a different one from Delhi? So you can imagine the possibilities that are now opened up because of this level of targeting. Classic funnel when it comes to it is first thing placement, placement, placement. That means figure out where is it that you want your ad to actually be placed. So always think placement first. Then what kind of ad format? That's obviously objective led. Then of course you have targeting. That means try and define it even more. Optimize it for better CPC, CPM, or OCPM. I can answer this in Q&A in case you need more details about optimized CPM. And then of course measure everything. But do not start a campaign without an objective and without a conversion objective. So that's about it, guys. I don't know if I took more time or less time, but I think I tried to finish it within 30 minutes.
Great. Thanks a lot, Preetham. There was a lot to learn in this presentation. Now, before I actually open it up for everyone, I have a couple of questions.
Yeah.
You mentioned that the organic reach of page has declined over a
That's
period
correct.
of time in Facebook, and you need to boost it up at this point of time.
Yes.
So, as an organization, there was a time that a lot of weightage used to go on creating a page and promoting a page. If it's about page application and ads as the sort of stuff that can be done on Facebook. So what is the current standard? Like, how are our organization perceiving this change, and how much of weightage is now going on in creating a page and promoting a page compared to running an ad or other stuff on Facebook?
So
is it changing? Yeah.
So the thing is, I think recruitment of fans is a constant thing that continues, right? Nobody can ever say that I have got all my customers on Facebook. What Facebook gives through a Facebook page is something extremely important, which is addressability, correct? Now let's look at the purchase funnel, right? So you built awareness, that's great. Whenever you run a television commercial, whenever you run a print campaign, what it does is just build awareness. You haven't moved users to a consideration cycle at all, correct? But when you recruit them as fans on a Facebook page, all of those fans are now on a consideration cycle. That means you get better conversion onto the purchase funnel when it comes to final purchase when they're fans, right? I mean, this is standard. So recruitment has to continue in any case. There isn't a fixed ratio on how much I need to spend for recruitment, as long as what your objectives are. My first question is, it doesn't matter whether you have 100,000 fans or 1 million fans, are you getting the most out of your fans right now? Correct? So there is a threshold for scalability. Get that scalability first. There isn't much you can do with just 1,000 fans. I can obviously clearly understand that. So get your threshold first, then start working on your content strategy. That's a good way to actually do it, right? And then start scaling up the rest of the recruitment.
Right. Great. So I mean that is there and that would stay. Only thing is that on an ongoing basis, in terms of the content strategy and the content promotion strategy, that is changing, right?
That is correct.
Great. So let me take some questions now. Mansi has a question to start with. She wants to know, so initially when you talked about, strategy portion and you need to start from listening first, I think that's the time she put up this question. So the question is, when you say listen, what do you do? Is it something to do with technology or tool, or is it to do with semantic analysis, or are you talking about listening manually? If it's manually, how should one do that? Now, considering it's of a stage that you're saying when you're starting a strategy, you start with listen. You're not so sure about the goals and objective also. Just being online, just going to the social, and you haven't purchased any tool also. So what are the sort of listening strategy that you recommend at that stage?
Okay, so I think I'd like to answer this a little bit more broadly, right? So whenever you're starting a business, right, it could be a product or service. Most of the time, whenever you're starting a business, it's usually an adaptation of an existing business, right? So Nike already makes shoes, you're creating a subcategory of shoes. So when you're starting a business itself, what do? You do something called market research, right? You first figure out what kind of shoes people interest in. You do a little bit of a market research. Listening is no different from market research, correct? But you're listening to what is the context on social itself. The start of any business is market research. Same way the presence on social needs to be listening. Now, how you do it, I leave that to you. In some cases, it can be just mining what users and fans are doing on competitions pages, for instance, right? Or on open web forums. It's easier when you use very specific tools for a very short span of time, and you can sign up with any of those listening tools that exist there, and then start looking at both quantitative, which has more semantic/sentiment analysis, which is broadly done, but most importantly, myself and our team has had tremendous value going through qualitative analysis, right? Of course, there is a long tail approach, which means you look at all of the influencers and what they're talking first besides the rest of them. So figure out who those influencers are, listen to what they're saying, right? And then look at the next section of people who are very active, engaged people, and then listen to what they're saying. This has to be done both as a mix of quantitative and qualitative. To simply answer your question across 3 aspects, I think you should be doing all 3.
Got that. And okay, so another question in this regard is, so Mansi wants to know if there are some industry standards for conversion that one is looking at, and especially in terms of the organic traffic or the paid traffic that one can get out of Facebook. So first of all, should that one be the primary objective of doing something on Facebook? And if that views, like what is the kind of range that one can expect, or if there is some industry standard to that?
So that's interesting, right? Now, I'm going to use something which is a very simple business, right? Something that people don't even think of, correct? Which is, say, the business of food and restaurants, correct? Really simple. Now, this is a small mom and pop shop, right? They have just one store, correct? And they want to drive, obviously, customers to come in. Really simple. That's their objective, correct? Now, the conversion metrics which they will be measuring, what you would call as what is the average cost of acquisition of a customer, correct? You need to look and put a value to that. So you say that, okay, fine, if I can get a customer to walk into my store, I'm going to value it at about 100 rupees, for instance, correct? Now you need to see, is your conversion meeting that at all or not? So that needs to be the primary benchmark. Industry benchmarks can be a little tricky because it can vary from territory to territory. Like for instance, the benchmark for Bombay will be different from that of say Pune because of various factors, right? Because of the cosmopolitan nature of Bombay, because of the number of people in Bombay. So obviously there is more impressions, which means the cost obviously comes down, and so on and so forth, right? So there isn't any specific industry measurement. There are broader ones, I mean, to be honest, but then they're so broad that, you know, it doesn't make much of a difference in even mentioning those, correct? Because they can't be very accurate. The point is, have that, you know, what is the value of your conversion? Fix a value yourself, right? And see if Facebook as a platform is getting you that value. If it is not, don't be on the platform. But most of the time we've seen that it does add value.
Got that. Great. Okay. There's some users, including Karen and Amir, who wants to know a little more about the custom audience that you mentioned. So, if like how exactly you can do that? So, and like what are the kind of a targeting options? So, probably that's something that a lot of people are hearing it for the first time. So, if you could share some more details on that, it would be good.
Right. So custom audiences is just a mapping product that Facebook has created. Now, whenever people create Facebook accounts, they add their email addresses to it, right? Like for instance, all my email addresses are added to my Facebook profile. That's a given. And Facebook has this information. So let's say I've given the same email address which you've collected it through any of the drives, right? Either at the store or in one of those marketing campaigns, anything where you've connected, you know, collected user information. You will now upload this database of email address and phone numbers to Facebook. Correct? Now Facebook will see which of these phone numbers and email addresses are on the Facebook platform itself. Correct? And then map the users attached to that. Now what makes it interesting is, since you've already obtained this customer database, you can do targeting after this. That's not a problem at all. Correct? But in the first burst, don't do that targeting option. These are your customers already in any case. They know you, they've interacted with you in some way or the other. If they walked into the store, they've already experienced your brand. If they have given you the contact details, it's because they've shown interest, right? So run a campaign, whether it's a recruitment campaign in order to add them as fans, or you want to do a conversion campaign to get them to your website and re-register, or whatever it might be. Run that and then achieve your objective out of these set of customers to start with. For India, right now we are seeing a good customer mapping. That means whenever you upload a database of about 100, you're seeing at least 60 to 70 which are getting mapped, which is actually a damn good number from an India standpoint.
Great. And just to add to that, how to do it, you can just go to Power Editor and there is an option
so
to do this.
How to do it is go to Power Editor. They have an option for custom audiences itself where you can then upload, you know, in CSV or as an Excel format, you can upload all of these email addresses / phone numbers. Do it individually, don't do it merged. So upload email addresses separately and upload phone numbers separately.
Got that.
Just one piece of warning, do not use public databases. Whenever Facebook sees that a public database is being used, because it's easy to buy databases, right? You can buy, you know, I think the last time I checked publicly, all the registered email addresses from Naukri.com were available at whatever X amount of money. It's not that big a deal. Do not use those because Facebook usually discourages it. It might just ban your account if you try to use public databases. Please try and be as accurate as possible.
Got that. Just to, as a follow-up on that, there are tools available which helps you to extract the UIDs in bulk. So is that also discouraged like if I want a UID of particular groups on Facebook and I just extract it through that tool and try to target them through Power Editor.
So the thing is, Facebook knows if it suddenly sees, so let's say you upload a UID list, right? And this UID list
Right.
is something that you bought from somewhere, correct? So did some 20 other people who bought it, right? So Facebook knows as soon as it sees matching lists, correct? And so they will clamp down on it.
Yeah.
Because it's not like an exclusive sale only to you. There are some 50 other people who bought the same list who are trying to do the same thing and use custom audiences by uploading UIDs. While they may be a little cool right now, do understand that it's a little scary, in which case, they can completely scrap your whole ad campaign altogether.
Got it. Great. Another question is asked from Parag Nambar. He's saying, thanks for informative webinar. His question is that you're suggesting ads based on likes and interests, but do people actually fill in that details? More open the Facebook accounts. Don't we really lose out on those who haven't really filled in those details?
So you do, right? Which is why you still have demographic and other targeting in any case. But what I'm saying is, in order to get better results, you need to have more accurate reach to start with. It will start getting you more results, right? The broader ones, you will start seeing more. I'll give you a very simple example, right? So we're working with one of the largest banks here in Singapore, and we're seeing huge conversion rates, right? We're seeing conversion rates from impressions to click-throughs to up to 1.25%. Correct? And it's gone up to even 2.5%. We were a little shocked at first, and then we looked at why it was happening. Is largely because we had a very specific profile of people that we were going after, and we had targeted and created content which was specific to each one of those people with those specific activities. So we started seeing more conversion, right? So it's not one ad or one particular creative that fits all, right? So now we have 20 different creative buckets, and it's going out to 20 different groups of people. Correct? And then you start seeing more conversion. It's a little bit more effort, but nobody said digital was easy.
Got it. Great. And Parag, just to add to that, as Preetham already mentioned, these interests are calculated based on the kind of words people are using. So they may not have specified it manually on their profile, but Facebook could still assess them. So there would be since people are participative enough, you would have a good enough reach if you do the precise targeting of the interests.
So, I mean, some of it is really simple, right? I mean, you would see most of the fans who have liked Kingfisher. I mean, you understand that they like beer, right? So it goes in those lines. It's relatively straightforward. To be honest, here's a very important metric. On an average, when it comes to the Indian market, an average user is liked up to 80 pages. So that's 80 likes / interests already. Correct? That's pretty good, according to me. I mean, that's a good enough definition to start with.
Great. So another question by Parag is, while you were discussing about ads, you talked about impressions also, but he's saying, isn't CPC always better because of the measurable? Or yeah,
okay,
so when is it that impression will make sense?
When your objective is to build awareness. It's really simple, correct? So sometimes your objective is not, you don't want to measure any conversion at all because there is no objective. Let's say you're a new brand and you want to just get as many people to see your brand logo and your brand name. That's building awareness, correct? So you will do a huge awareness-based campaign for about a week. Correct? And that's also done in order to build trust. So most of the time awareness is a direct relation to trust, right? I mean, most people, the question is, one of the biggest challenges that digital is having broadly is from this awareness perspective, is the fact that the awareness trust that you get on digital is not as powerful as an awareness trust that you get on, say, print or television. Like, for instance, if you were to see an ad for a jewelry store in the newspaper versus if you were to see the same ad on Facebook, correct, as just awareness, you would obviously trust the jewelry store which is on print. But this is broadly for digital to figure itself out. But sometimes awareness is the objective, in which case you will try and do everything. That's why you have OCPM, right? You have optimized cost per million, I mean cost per milli, which is impression-based optimization.
Great. I hope that clarifies it for you. So another question, Rohan wants to know, is there any secret formula for a social organization to get people moving on a cause through Facebook? So any tips for a social movement?
Is he from AAP or BJP or Congress? No.
That's what exactly I was thinking also.
Most of the time, social movements, what we've seen is the spark works out really better. That means if you're keeping in touch with the pulse of it, and if you start reporting very instantaneously as opposed to what happens, that means you need to be breaking content much faster than what news media is currently doing. And it doesn't have to be at a national stage. It can be something which can happen at a very local stage which your newspapers and your television channels haven't covered. That has started seeing tremendous amounts of impact, right? It could be small causes, big causes, it could be anything at all. I'll give you a very simple example. I forget the group which is there. There's a very interesting page in Bangalore run by a group of people who actually bring in IT professionals who come in on a Saturday in the morning of a Saturday and clean up a pavement, correct? Clean up a section of a road, right? Just paint it, remove the garbage, put a garbage bin. Completely, it's a citizens' initiative, correct? They haven't spent a single buck on advertising. It's extremely recent. Those social movements which have caused, they put up videos, they put up photographs. Trust me, that's gone completely viral. I can probably do later on in case there's a reconnect session in terms of what that particular page is, but I find that initiative amazing.
Great. So viral is what people really want. Another question is, earlier, the question asked by Amit, earlier FB allowed to choose the price for FB page likes, i.e. through CPC. Now page likes is decided by FB, which comes at almost too much of price. How should we address it? I'm not so sure. I mean, I think CPC is still there, but overall, the price of acquiring fans, what is your take on that? Is it increasing? It has increased, or how should?
No, I mean it has increased a little bit, but it's not increased drastically a lot more. First of all, I discourage having conversations around fan acquisition, to be honest, unless there is an objective to it, right? So I'm saying, okay, fan acquisition is important, but let's do it properly. So you've got newsfeed, insertions, you've got custom audiences, you've got retargeting, you have all of this. So make sure that you use the right tools. We haven't seen it gone up drastically. I mean, I think it's just a question of maybe about 10-15% here or there. Maximum I've seen is about 20% that's gone up, but not so much. Now the thing is, if you're using the standard Facebook ads tool, I think you just need to search a little bit and you will find a way to fix bid it right there. That means decide what is your top line in terms of intake. Otherwise, the custom audience tool, the Power Editor tool anyway allows you to determine that and you have full control over the price.
Great. And Amit, I think you might not have seen it. They might have changed in terms of the position and how to do the CPC based ads, but the option is still there. It's not that the CPC option is gone. Okay, another question is asked by Amir. Amir is asking, how do you ascertain that the result you obtain are on account of these Facebook efforts? So this attribution through Facebook, are there like some tools, some guidelines on how to do that?
Okay, so one is you're directly measuring digital objectives. That's easy, right? Because you have tracking pixels, you have everything that can be tracked. That means you know the traffic which is coming from Facebook. But no. So that's the easier solution. That means whenever there is conversion, that means if you want to know how much of traffic I've gotten onto a registration page where the user has finished his registration, that can be tracked as to what the source is. That's not too complicated. That's just a technical solution, right? You just put a tracker pixel on your registration page, and then whenever the link comes from Facebook, Facebook will tell you, and then you can obviously attribute it to that. It's not too
Preetham, can I stop you for a minute?
Yeah.
The disturbance has started coming again. So
hold on. Just one second. Just one. Hello?
Yeah, it's clear now.
It's clear now? Right.
Yeah.
So if it is anything which is online, it can be tracked very easily. That's not too difficult at all. I think one of the biggest challenges that most people they have is when it comes to brand-based awareness and trust-based awareness, right? Like how do I track a user who's seen my ad or has experienced an app or who's a Facebook fan of mine, and how do I track that into has he walked into the store, correct? Now that's a little tricky, correct? So one way to do that is obviously do a dipstick analysis of people who are walking into the store saying, are you a Facebook fan, etc., etc. That's a good way to get that number. The second one, and a more interesting one, is do time parting, which means run your marketing strategy as it is for, say, 3 months in a row, correct? 4th month, add the Facebook component, correct? See what is the change. Look at the delta, correct? And then now you have some kind of measurability on what's happening. Correct. So all the three, which is whether it's awareness, whether it is conversion, whether it's purchase, can be attributed in some way or the other. I mean, we actually do a lot of this analysis, and I mean, I've given this answer very simplistically, but obviously there's a lot that goes into it, and that's a proper strategy doc and discussion, which is at least a 5-day long conversation with about 100 slides. But yeah, it's definitely possible.
Got that. So attribution is complex, but it's possible, and you just need to strategize it appropriately.
That's correct.
Great. So guys, I'm taking up more questions, and simultaneously I just launched this poll in front of you. You know, we conduct courses as digital marketing space. So if you're interested, just mention yes over here. Another question I have, Preetham, is you talked about remarketing and retargeting, which is done by Facebook, yeah. And we also do it internally a lot. But if we compare retargeting and remarketing, is there any analysis on which one works better, or in terms of comparison, in terms of the targeting option that is available? Is there anything?
So whenever there is a digital objective, right? Whenever there is an online objective, that means whenever you want somebody to fill a form, whenever you want somebody to complete the purchase, whenever you want somebody to check out a particular object that they've already added to their, checkout cart or whatever it is, right? Retargeting obviously works better. Where remarketing works better is when you're trying to convert people from the awareness cycle to the consideration cycle. Retargeting works better when you're moving people from the consideration cycle to the purchase cycle or the objective cycle. It's really simple. That's a distinction.
Got that. Great. So another question is asked by Fanny. She wants to know what is a good daily budget. Then what will work well in your biz, including CPC, OCPM, CPM.
What's the business that she's in?
Fanny, if you could just mention about what business you're in, that will help us a lot. By that time, there's a question.
And what's the objective? Yes, and what's the objective? Both of these.
And what's the objective?
I'm sorry, but the thing is, I come from a strategy background, so for me, objective is by far the most important thing. I think it should be for everybody, to be honest, correct? So just broadly posting a question saying what should be the daily budget is a little tricky for me to answer.
Got that. Just a second. Where is my question list? So there's a question asked by Dr. TK. He wants to know what is CTM. You've used this word CTM sometime in the presentation.
CTR or CTM?
Yeah, he's saying CTM.
There is no
Have you used CTM anywhere? There is no, yeah, that's what I was also confused. It must be CTR, Dr. TK.
So yeah, so click-through ratio is anything which is, the clicks divided by the number of impressions into 100 is click-through ratio.
Okay. Okay, some of you are actually asking, can you please repeat the answer? So in any case, what we'll do is we are recording this session and we'll send you the recording of the session in a couple of days time.
Yeah, that'll be
great. You can go through it again, right? And Preetham, I hope it would be fine if we can give out the PDF of the presentation as well.
Yeah, that shouldn't be a problem.
Yeah. Great. So, Fanny is saying that business is health products and objective is sales.
So if there is an online sales, then I would say there's no, I mean, sky's the limit. You can go up to even about 1 lakh every day. I mean, it's not an issue, right? But otherwise, again, tie it back to objective. It's about how many products you can push and what is the fulfillment criteria that you've got. So if your fulfillment side is absolutely clear, try and set it up a little high. It can go up to about 1 lakh of daily budget at least. And if you have that kind of budgets. Otherwise, I mean, it's appropriated to what does your marketing budget start with. So most e-commerce players set it up upwards of 1 lakh every day.
Got it. And another question is asked by Anil. He wants to know, are there some guidelines how to get more virality or shareability?
Create love marks. I like the term love marks because I think there are two things to love marks, right? I mean, if you know the funny analogy to the term love mark is because, you know, you're hot as a guy, and that's why you have a love mark. And the second thing is it leaves a stickiness factor, correct? Which means it's there for others to see as well. It's a book. I think everybody should read it on how you need to create passionate content. But I think the simplest thing is don't do the ordinary. And don't do the extraordinary either. Do the completely different, and that works, right? You look at what Volvo did with their epic split, right? So, by the way, a lot of people don't know the story, but it's not the first time that Volvo has been doing those experiments. They've been doing those test experiments a lot of times with a lot of different scenarios till they added the component of Van Damme to it, and that was doing it differently. Correct? And then it became viral. So always make sure that there is a huge X factor. I think a lot of people can, you know, it's easy for people to criticize the word X factor, but then to be honest, beyond that, there is no other formula. What that X factor is, if I could tell you and if I know it myself, I would be sitting on $1 billion of cash. So. I can't hear you, Kapil. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. Great. So I think there is no secret and the formula, and just go out and try. That's possibly the way to deal with it.
That's right.
Okay.
If there was, then it would stop being viral because everybody would be doing the same nonsense. By the way, there's something which is interesting, and I think so Upworthy, the company which tends to make a lot of videos go viral, has given a little bit of an interesting analysis deck which is there on SlideShare already. So if you don't know Upworthy is this website which looks at partially viral videos, creates interesting headlines to those videos, and then makes them go even more viral, right? And so they have a little bit of a modus towards how they operate that. That's a good starting point, to be honest. But then they use something called as, you know, superlatives and obtuse in order to, you know, deliver their content. That's a good start, right? But it's not the be-all end-all, because what they can do is get 2x or 3x reach, but you can't make a Volvo, for instance.
Got it. Okay, guys, I've launched this another question. If you're looking for some professional service in social media or search engine, let me know. I'll forward the contact details to Preetham, and he'll possibly someone from his team might call you. So there's an interesting question. You know, on a real practical basis, this question is asked by Amir. Are not you always more concerned about the sales number going up? Now, in that scenario, how would you consider like the brand impact, and I mean, how would you really, you know, run both the initiatives?
Didn't quite understand the question. Could you elaborate a little bit?
Yeah, I think overall the question is when it comes to the, so Amit, just let me know if I am right, or if you want to add something to that, that's perfectly fine. He's saying on a real practical basis, are not you more concerned about the sales number going up?
He's not concerned, or he is concerned?
Why would you really? He is concerned. The primary concern is actually sales number. Okay. Then why would you consider about your brand impact and things like that? So in a way, I mean, how would you run branding related initiatives in these kind of scenarios?
Okay. this is interesting discussion on what advertising does broadly, right? It's a very open discussion. I think there are multiple answers to it. Why do you need to run ads at all? Correct. Why not just replace your advertising budget with thousands and thousands of salespeople? I think the thing is, we don't buy products. We never have. We don't need MBA endorsed shoes. Let's be very clear about it. We don't need shoes which give us a 1/8 inch jump. We don't need our Nike fuel bands. We don't need seat warmers in our cars. We never had them 40 years back. We don't need them now, to be honest, right? They all get sold and they get bought because of stories, correct? Brands are built on perception. They build on stories, right? And that's why brands have an impact. Sales is secondary always, right? If you speak to any true marketer, he'll tell you that sales will come later. What's very important for them is reach. What's very important for them is perception. What's very important for them is conversion, and then sales finally comes last, right? So if you're concerned about sales, yes, Facebook obviously has the products for you, which means you look at just the conversion parameters. That means you look at registrations, you look at everything that can be digitally achieved, which is closer to your sales goal. Correct. But to be honest, you will start seeing, and we've seen this a lot in terms of experience, it's a triangle, right? There is brand, there is sales, and then there is content. These three go together. When you skew something on one side, the other two sides will lose out. But whenever you skew something on the brand side, correct, we haven't seen the sales side dip. Whereas when you run campaigns which are very sales-centric, you start seeing other things getting a little shaky. I think one of the more classic examples was, back in the, I'm saying about 15 years back, if you remember the product called BPL. BPL was a pretty popular television to buy, even all the way until 95, 96. This is post-liberalization. While most people will attribute the downfall of BPL to Korean players who came in, which is Samsung, LG, so on and so forth, most people forget that 2 years before Korean players came in, BPL actually stopped advertising on the ego of the fact that every brand they had to build was already built. Branding is not a one-time exercise. It's a throughout exercise, right? Try and remove Nike's branding budget and you will see what happens to Nike.
Got it. By the way, can I say that it's marketing like a long-term sales versus sales are like short-term sales initiatives?
Yeah, that's correct. I think marketing is, I don't know, I mean, I think marketing is everything from the clothes you wear to how you talk as opposed to exactly what you talk. Sales is too direct. Nobody wants to be sold anything, yeah? Let's be honest. They want to be seduced. And branding and marketing is all about seduction, right? It's not about sales. Like sales is, what you get on the street, which is, there are so many people who are selling those mosquito sprays on the road. How many of those do you buy? You still go to the store and buy Hit, correct? And that's the difference between marketing and sales.
Got it. I think that was very informative. We've actually answered all the questions now. So guys, we would be doing a blog post on this as well. In case any of the question is not answered, you can just post it as a comment there and I'll try to address it. So at this point of time, really want to thank all of you. We've already exceeded 5 minutes. So thank you for all your participation.
Thank you guys. Thank you everybody. I can see about 51 people who still remain. So thank you so much for logging in, even if you're distracted with other things on a multiple tab. But it was great to be a part of this. I hope I could add value. And if you have my contact details, which I'm hoping that Kapil can share it with all of you, it'll be great if you could write into me anytime. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have, or I'll get somebody from my team in India to be in touch with you.
Great. Thank you, Preetham. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Kapil.
The session is closed. Thanks.
Bye.